Welcome to you all for this short presentation of the new line of varnish colors for painting retouching. My presentation will be based upon an introduction, first of all, as for the general features of the painting retouching, and then we will go through the history of colors. In conclusion, we will share an overview on the characteristics of PUREST line. As you all know, the rules for painting retouching are based upon several points, such as being distinctive, being reversible, and the minimal impact on the image of the painting itself. These are basic notions that you already know for sure, but I would like to focus on the latest 2 points that you can see on the slides. That is to say, a compatible material and a stable material to be used. By being compatible, we mean compatibility from the chemical, physical, and optical point of view. In other words, the material I'm going to use must not be a material that is weird for the painting with a brightness or a lack of brightness, very different from the painting. Likewise, it shouldn't be too different from a physical point of view. For example, adding a too soft material able to catch dust, well, this is something you should avoid. In particular, stability is the most important and interesting point for us when this new line of products is presented. So this is based upon pigments and binder. That is why a monitoring of pigments available on the market has been carried out. We decided to use very stable pigments, the most stable ones, except for one case we're going to see together later on. As for binder instead, as I'm going to explain to you later on, is very stable. It's a very stable binder is the Laral A81. This type of binder is a material that has already been studied in details in the States, first of all, and then afterwards at the CNR in Italy too, where some researches have been carried out, and we have already offered as vanishes for painting retouching, and it is the Resin retouching vanishing. It goes without saying that the painting retouching implies some choices from the ethical point of view, but also some interventions on the painting itself, and that is outside our operational sphere. It is something that concerns art historical experts, and that is why we're going to skip on that. The only point I would like to emphasize is that scientific analysis that went into details as for vanishes, well, they did not concern that much the materials for retouching. Therefore, until a few years ago, this sector was not that known. we had a few data, few specific studies on that, and therefore information was pretty poor, and that's why restorers couldn't make logical choices being based upon scientific data. Until the 90s, we did not have specific studies. That's why we had to wait for the new millennium, when in 2000 in particular, a paper, a milestone by Leonard Witten and Gamblin was published. They analyzed the new materials for retouching, painting retouching. In particular, they emphasized the stability of resin Laral A81. In Italy, studies were available later on. In particular, I would like to mention the conference organized in 2010 in Trento by CESMAR 7 on final phases in the restoration of works. 3 independent research groups submitted a in-depth study on materials that at that time in 2010 were used by restoration labs, in particular in Italy and in Spain. One of the 3 groups, the one with Alicia Sanchez Ortiz and Sandra Micó Boró, analyzed materials used in Spain. Since 2013, a series of congresses have been organized named RECH, Retouching of Cultural Heritage. They have been organized approximately every 2 years, and they focused on retouching phases for polychrome works. I had the honor to attend this conference in Lisbon in October, and I presented a work whose title was Formulators' Emotionality, concerning the involvement of formulation, not only from a technical point of view, but also from the emotional point of view for formulators. After this introduction, we can now go into details as for materials, saying that in Italy there is still the tradition of preparing colors retouching products manually, starting from mastic resin with the addition of balsam from Canada, if you want to sometimes, and then we mix it with the powder pigment. This kind of approach evolved, and it kept the palette of pigments, but changing the typology of binding of resin. We shifted from mastic resin to the synthetical ones, such as well-known the paraloid B72, but also Laral A81, or more rarely, the polyvinyl acetate named Berger in painting medium. Well, it is actually the polyvinyl acetate PVA, as you can see from the slide. By these initials, in 1935, Gattens identified it for the first time as a potential binder for pigments in retouching, painting retouching. We can say that starting from 1950, it was mainly used, in particular in the States, not that much in Europe. Among all the different types of PVA, in 1959, the typology named epsilon AB was considered as the best one for this kind of application. We actually find in the text in the paper by Berger, we have the description of this medium based upon A epsilon AB resin. This is not only a painting medium, but also it is considered as a binding varnish. And the application of it comes before the real operation of retouching. A series of colors based upon PVA resins, and in particular on AYAB resin, implied the golden PVA conservation colors, but in 2010 it was not available on the market anymore. This AYAB resin was not available anymore, and it was replaced by Mowilith 20. A similar resins, Raviflex BL5S, offers very similar characteristics compared to the one that are not available anymore. Therefore, it is possible to use it as a binder for pigments and also for retouching. The other group of products used for retouching is the one of acrylics. They started to be on the market in the 30s with the plexigum. In 1947, we have a paraloid F10 on the market. Paraloid F10 is a material which is not available anymore right now, but it impacted the market of restoration too, because this resin was the basis for the Magna colors line created by Leonardo Borgioli and by Sam Golden. It was not a line of colors for retouching. It was actually a line for artists. It was not that successful, and then it was not available on the market anymore. But restorer learned to know it and to use it for retouching. Color was very reversible, and therefore this aspect, although it implied problems for the creation by artists, was a strength for the restorers instead. Right now, among the acrylics, the resin which is commonly used is the paraloid B72. 72, sorry, paraloid B72. So summing up, in the past, the following lines were applied. So Borgioli based upon paraloid F10, then golden PVA based on polyvinyl acetate resin. For some years, we also had in Europe in particular the Maimeri Restauro based on ketone resin, the Laral K18, but in 2009, Laral K80 was withdrawn from the market. In addition to that, we also had gels based upon paraloid B72. It was not a line for retouching colors, they were mainly gels, and it was possible to mix with the pigments in order to create retouching colors with different viscosities. Right now, it is possible to list several colors available on the market. First of all, Maimeri Restauro, the historic line based upon mastic resin in particular. gambling line based on Laral A81, and then 3 lines by Kremer with different binders, shellac-based, in particular for retouching on wood, Paraloid B72 and Laral A81. We also have to mention the Restaurarte line based upon a different Laral resin 101, and last but not least, the renewed golden acrylic-based line based upon Paraloid. Now we can describe the Laral A81 resin, that is the one that is the basis of the PUREST line. This is the core of our presentation. It is a urealdehyde resin by BASF, a German company. There are two interesting features. We have a 49 softening, a TG of 49 degrees and a softening range of 80 to 95 degrees. That means that resin stays at room temperature, stays tough, it doesn't catch dust, and it's excellent for paint and retouching without the adding of a final varnish. The refractive index is very high, 1.50, and the key characteristic, which is interesting for the reversibility of resin, is that the fact that it is part of the so-called low molecular weight resins, named LMW resins, whose molecular weights range between 2,000 up to 3,000, 4,000 And this characteristic allows us to reach similar features with the Regal resins that are very well known in the retouching. Laral A81 is very soluble in a wide range of solvents, polar solvents. Thanks to that, restorers have a wide range, a wide choice among solvents depending on volatility they prefer. This slide shows you two important studies published by Professor Delary. In particular, they focused on paintings, varnishes for paintings. After these studies, the application of Laral A81 evolved a lot as far as this sector is concerned. If you want to better know this type of resin, you can make reference to what the CNR did. They carried out studies in order to assess the behavior of Laral A81 and also of other materials after strong UVA irradiation. This table summarizes the results of some aging with hundreds of thousands of hours of irradiation with a strong UV irradiation. This table shows you the solubility, and you see that Laral A81 kept the solubility over the time 100%, unlike Kraton resin. After a very short irradiation, Kraton resin started to lose its solubility. This datum has been confirmed by the following table. Here you have the molecular weights. You can see that Laral A81 implies a shift from 2800, and then it goes down, but not in a meaningful way. After a very long aging, accelerated aging, approximately 3000 hours, you can see that the molecular weight of Laropal reached 1400 approximately. That means that the length of the chain was cut by half, and this is a very good feature in terms of reversibility of materials. This datum shows us that no cross-linking occurred. No new binders were created among molecules. So, no 3D system was created. This is a problem for the resin because it is not possible to dissolute the old resin. So all these data, including the following slide showing the spectrums of infrared, here you can see that basically resin reacts very well to this type of stress. So all these data together ensure that this material with a UV irradiation behaves correctly in case of aging. So there is no cross-linking, there is no oxidation, there is no yellowing. The lack of yellowing, actually, it is another very important factor whenever you choose the materials. That is why, and also for this reason, we opted for Laral A81. Well, now let's start to describe PUREST Plus products. We want to emphasize an aspect that has been followed carefully during the synthesis of these materials. We avoided carefully to formulate a solvent mixture that keeps the material suspended in the presence of aromatic solvents. The other products available on the market include this category of products, and that is a risk for the operator. That is why we made an effort in selecting not only pigments which had a good profile in terms of toxicity, but in particular the solvent mixed without this risk. The result allowed us to show a range of colors which is pretty wide, 30 colors plus a basis we named impasto. They allow basically to obtain any dyes, any shadow, any nuances that you may require during the restoration. This is the start, of course, so this is our first approach to the creation of this range of colors. Maybe in our choice we forgot something, so we invite you to share with us your suggestions. The idea for us is to submit in the future a widening of the range, so new colors depending on your suggestions. Thanks to your suggestion. Impasto was a choice we wanted to make following this trend. We know that often in restoration labs we have powder pigments that are mixed with several types of resins. In this case, we wanted to show you a pot of basic materials with inside the resin Laral A81, Laral A81, and a calcium carbonate pigment with a low level of covering. Why? Because in this way it will be possible for you to select in your lab the pigment you prefer, and maybe a pigment which is far from the range of colors we offer you. Inside the impasto, you can mix the pigment you prefer. In this way, you can create retouching colors without losing time in dissolving resins, in defining ratio between resins and pigments, which is an operational problem. So quickly you can achieve the color you want. Often I am asked, what is the solvent we can use with this new line, PUREST? Well, basically, there is not the perfect solvent. Why? Because any restorer has his or her touch, his or her speed, his or her own way to apply colors. Therefore, solvent volatility has to be customized. Each of and any restorer should mix all the solvents in order to reach his or her volatility and solvability, the one that is the best for him or her. As a matter of fact, we have a wide range of solvents. Today, I basically show you two classes. The so-called thinners, they are not real dissolvent for Laral A81, but they can be applied on the color from the pot so that it is possible to dilute. So the color is already dissolved. We already have a product inside the pot, and therefore it is possible to use solvents such as hydrocarburate. I make reference to essence of petroleum, hydrogen, white spirit with no aroma. Then we have true solvents. So we have thinners and then true solvents. The true solvent can dissolve the solid laropal, including the color once it is dried on the palette. Among them, we have several examples. I just mentioned acetone, isopropyl alcohol, dovanol, ethyl and butyl acetate, benzyl alcohol, ethyl lactate that is very successful in Italy, and also others such as toluene and xylene. Today, I also would like to emphasize the possibility to use a low toxicity solvent, a dimethyl carbonate, which is exceptional for its low toxicity. Therefore, I have a tip for you, that is to say, to create a low toxicity mixture based upon dimethyl carbonate, which is the fast one, and the dovanol PM, which is a medium speed solvent. To this mixture, it is possible to add eventually ethyl lactate or benzyl alcohol, so true solvents with a good profile from the toxicity point of view. Another point, another question that I have often to answer to is the following one. Why into a jar and not in a tube?